Hello, I'm Victoria Pugh, a Senior Lecturer at the University of Worcester. I teach on the Primary Initial Teacher Education courses and specialise in PSHE and RSE and Special Needs and Inclusion. Welcome to the part 4 of our mini-series in developing the new Relationships and Sex Education curriculum in primary schools. The session today is going to focus primarily on classroom practice and what this means for teachers and for schools. As you can see, the learning outcomes from today are similar to those of before. We're really thinking about the ways in which we can explore the new statutory guidance, how this has implications for practice, how we can facilitate and develop that dialogue and the sharing of best practice, both within schools and beyond, and thinking about the challenges that we may face as teachers within PSHE and RSE education and how we can overcome those. And one of the core threads that's weaving throughout everything are thinking about the ways in which RSE is a values-based curriculum and that it can be part of the whole school ethos. The use of books within RSE is not a new technique, but it certainly is a highly effective one. Books can be a springboard for discussion. They allow a deeper understanding of topics such as relationships, friendships, diversity, and mental health. They allow pupils to relate to characters or to see the story or a situation from a different perspective. Picture books and books can enhance peer discussion as well as supporting those respectful interactions between children, the discussion that comes from the books, being able to respect somebody else's opinion. They're all highly valued skills and really important within RSE. They allow for opportunities for debate, for pupils to question and challenge concepts or situations they come across, to start to form their own ideas and their own opinions about particular situations. There's been an increase in the use of whole class guided reading, and this has been a really great opportunity for pupils to really explore books together. And using books which have strong RSE themes can be a great way for them to be able to look at situations which they might not have come across or to pick up books which they might not have been drawn to themselves. One example of this was in a Year 5 class I taught the book Wonder, which is a fantastic book, and this allowed us as a whole class to be able to explore the idea of what it means to be different. We looked at diversity, we looked at what's healthy friendships look like, we looked at bullying and how we can be bystanders of bullying without possibly realising. And this book opened up a multitude of discussions that we probably wouldn't have had without the stimulus of the book there. It allowed us to discuss a lot of sensitive issues in a distanced way because we were talking about the characters specifically and we weren't talking about us as people or personally. And this was a great way to be able to share a lot of the RSE themes in a really meaningful way. There are a number of fantastic picture books out there. Professor Richard Woolley pointed you in the direction of the Family Diversity resource picture book pack, which is free and it's absolutely brilliant. It's a great way to find books on particular families, which can be really useful. But there are a number of books which I can certainly recommend for Key Stage 2 as well. The book Illegal is actually a graphic novel, which is a great way to I don't like the word reluctant reader, I just think they haven't found the right book yet, but it is a great way to be able to allow children to explore words and pictures in a completely different way. Boy at the Back of the Class is just a wonderful book to talk about, what it's like when you feel like an outsider, and what we can do as a whole class to ensure that there's inclusion as a class. So books can be a great way. They can be very cheap, they can be used inclusively, there can be pre-teaching done with those, there can be group work, role play, all of those things surrounding some wonderful work for RSE within that. They also allow for so much work around emotional literacy to be done and for children to be able to identify times when characters feel certain emotions and to be able to look at how they know that that person or that character felt that emotion. What did it say? What were the signs of that emotion and how was it brought about? Scenario cards are another great way to be able to introduce a number of RSE topics within the classroom. And the benefits of scenarios is that it's a distancing technique that can be used for children to be able to empathise or start to respond to how other people are acting within a particular scenario without it being personally about themselves. And this distancing allows for a really safe discussion in a really safe environment amongst their peers and with their teacher. Scenarios don't have to just be about discussion. There are so many options to be able to use scenario cards. They can be role play, hot seating, that very, very classic technique is really great way for children to be able to explore a number of issues within RSE. Using examples from media, from newspapers, from social media, from the news can be a really great way to include a number of topics around RSE, perhaps friendships or mental health. And there's a company called Picture News who do some wonderful resources and assembly resources using pictures as stimulus for a number of different situations, and they just get the discussion going with children. It also allows the pupil to be less anxious about the possibility of the teacher asking them directly something about, this scenario when they were involved in this, because it's all about different characters. So this is a great way to be able to really get some great discussion around particular, possibly sensitive or controversial issues without it being personal to the pupil. The use of images and artwork in RSE is such a lovely inclusive approach for discussion starters or to get some deeper discussion around the picture itself. The picture on the slide is called The Monster and the Boy. It's from Once Upon a Story website, and it's an absolutely fantastic example of the ways in which one picture can really be explored with pupils. It could be that you ask the children to come up with their own questions about this picture. It might be that you give them some question prompts, such as what is the boy doing? How is he feeling? How do you know this? Is the monster real or a representation of something? If the monster was to represent a feeling, what feeling might it represent and why? All of these questions allow pupils to explore things that they might not be able to within other situations, and it allows you as a teacher to be able to understand the baseline of their understanding of a particular topic and perhaps see what questions they have that they want to bring out that you can discuss in more detail. It gives pupils the opportunity to express their feelings about topics without necessarily having to use words because they can draw the responses to the questions. It means that they don't have to have a highly developed emotional literacy, but they can use pictures to represent that, which makes it incredibly inclusive. It might be that they'll be able to have a massive graffiti wall where there's some paper on the wall and they get to just put their ideas up there in picture form, maybe some keywords, and this again can be used as a baseline before and then returned to after a particular set of lessons or a topic. It's so important that we link RSE to values education, that we're thinking about RSE within the school values, that this is a thread that runs throughout the curriculum. And I know that Richard Woolley has spoken about this before, but the practical examples of the values within the classroom and beyond are really important. So thinking about having the pupil voice within the curriculum, the parent carer community voice within the curriculum. What is it that your school needs and your community needs? It really needs to be that we're thinking about how RSE is meeting the needs of those children and their parents and the community. Working together as a team is so important. Thinking about the way in which that your staff, your support staff, your parents, your governors, your leadership team all have the shared values that link to RSE and that those are very clearly stated within a policy that's been put together after a consultation with all of the stakeholders within the school. Pupil voice is so essential. One great technique that I've used before is to ask Year 7 children who've just left the school to come back again and talk to me about what is it that they would have liked to have known before they left in Year 6, what would have prepared them for Year 7 more in terms of RSE or PSHE in general, and then using this feedback to really feed into the current RSE curriculum. And this gives the children a voice, it's being utilised and it's being used to really feed into the current curriculum in a way that's meaningful. The same with parents, carers, it's very important that guardians have a say in how they think RSE can be supported within the school, for them to get on board with what's happening. Relationships education in primary school is mandatory and children cannot be withdrawn from this. However, the sex education element that is deemed as sex education, aside from science education, has to be a dialogue between all the parties involved. And I've really found that it's a much more positive experience when parents and carers are included in this and the decisions that are being made around this. Some things that I've used in the past which have been particularly useful are having a really transparent, very open dialogue with parents, allowing them to view all the resources that we're using, to put their mind at ease that the resources are age appropriate, that they are designed to be taught at the level that their child is at, and that there's nothing that we wouldn't want them being taught. We're all on the same team, we're all on the same side. So for me, having a box with all of the resources that perhaps sits in the hall, tucked away in the hall, it could be in the office that parents can view. Having resources online in a separate section on the website is really useful, and being able to show parents things as it comes along. It might be online learning, it might be relationships online, but having these constant links to really helpful resources, really helpful websites is such a great way of keeping parents up to date with what's going on and allowing them to have their views as well. It might be that within your parent, carer, guardian community that you have some parents who are particularly involved in certain areas within RSE education, and you can really utilise their skills and their passions in particular areas. Perhaps it's health education, perhaps it's relationships education, that they would be able to contribute to the curriculum as well. There are further training opportunities available at the University of Worcester. We're currently running a university diploma in personal social education, which includes training around a number of the RSE and PSHE wider topics. This is a level 5 diploma, fully accredited course, and there are more details on the link below, or you can Google University Diploma in PSE, University of Worcester. The following references and further reading will hopefully point you in the direction of some really great resources that will be useful to you when you're thinking about RSE and the practical applications within the classroom.